You know what? This is something that I thought about a while back, but I actually kind of forgot about it. But I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna go off the cusp because one of the things is I always like rags to riches stories, right? One of the things about rap music, one of the interesting things about rap music is basically a lot of it is based off of of course, stories of a lot of times people coming from humble beginnings, right? But also is like rags to riches stories, right? Well, um, a lot of people, a lot of people have these, stories, right? These, I call it broke stories, right? Or whatever. And it's like, it's nothing to be ashamed about it because the thing about it is, a lot of times most people struggle financially. That's what I talk about on my channel. I expose the brokenness. Like, today I posted on my social media page, the Broke Genius. Um, Basically, I'm a brokeologist. I can spot fake, like I call them rich pretenders a mile away. I could spot rich pretenders in their conversation. I've listened to enough people in my life, and I can dissect the BS, from the real. Because basically a lot of times people are just so pretentious and fake and narcissistic nowadays that they this is what they do. And this is a prelude to the story, of course, but what they do is they omit, okay? Most of the people you talk to, whether it be offline, online, they don't necessarily lie to you about their financial standing, right? They just don't tell you, which is omission. Omission is not necessarily a lie. It is not necessarily the truth either. It's just omission. It's a cloud, a gray cloud in the air. You don't know anything about a person. You're listening to them, you're following them for years. They could be living in a cabin in the woods and broke as hell, and you would never know because basically you've been following somebody that has not been 100% accurate with you about their standing, but then they might have all of the critique in the world about your financial standing. Well, me being a broke genius, I definitely don't operate like that. Um, like the great rapper, MC Breed, ain't no future in your fronting. Okay, so in another rapper, basically Master P's brother, Silk the Shocker. I ain't got a lot of kick it. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is that yeah, these stories, man, I think it might help some people. It might give you a little chuckle, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people have a lot of broke stories, okay? And I ain't no different, man. And I'm reminded of that when I listen to music from the 90s and 2000s. Hell, I mean, to be honest with you, I have recent broke stories. So I'm gonna start back. This story starts from 2008. Okay, let me tell you about 2008. Basically, it was a housing market collapse. Okay, um, it was a financial event where a lot of financial traders, Wall Street traders, they were playing an advanced mathematical shell game, pretty much with mortgages, basically, which they were using something called CDOs, which is collateral debt obligations. They were packaging up mortgage principal, mortgage notes into packages and reselling them to people basically also knowing that basically people were defaulting on these loans, as well as they were behind on their mortgages, and they were selling these principal notes to basically whoever they could, from whether it be high Wall Street firms that were hedge funds to just average, I don't know, person with some money that's a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. They were selling these things like hotcakes, and what happened from that was it was a housing market collapse. So, basically, a lot of people, it's just like a bubble bursting and a house of cards coming down, where a lot of houses they were underwater, like literally within a year or two. You had houses that were worth 100 grand, and this is just in the Chicagoland area. Obviously, all over the country this was affected, okay, but you had houses that were like 100 grand, and then all of a sudden they're like, for example, the house I bought in Chicago, you can look it up, 12544 Wallace, in Chicago, Illinois. I bought that house for $1. I remember going to, and this is probably this is another broke story, but I'll leave some out. But I went to court, to housing court, for this basically this house that I bought for $1, because it was in very bad condition, and I was trying to, give myself some time to fix it up. So I never forget going to court for this house. It was like 5 or 6 other people involved on this house, because it was like mortgage companies, other mortgage companies that were tied to this house. I mean, if you're a financial geek or financial nerd, you could actually research that property. You can find, you can look up the tax records and all that time. You if whatever you want to do, but you basically, it was a whole bunch of people, including myself, that was tied to this house, because basically it was my first real estate transaction. I learned quite a bit about it. uh you know I definitely will talk about it, but the thing is that when I went to this courtroom to see this judge about this matter with this house being on the housing list, Chicago housing list of houses that were abandoned, they had a red X on them. Basically this was something that I had to like try to fight off the city to demolish the property. So I remember going there, and it was just this all kind of different loan representatives, loan companies there, basically telling the judge, "Hey, this guy is the only fool that's associated with this house. We're not involved," basically. So I mean, that's just a prelude to what was going on. A lot of note passing, stuff like that, and it just basically it stumbled the economy. I remember people were applying for, it was very like kind of like the depression. I've never really been in depression. I hope to never be anywhere near depression, even though right now is very kind of like 2008ish as far as things, but it's a little bit different. But the thing is that in 2008, I definitely was, because not because necessarily, um let's just say it was my own doing. Of course, a lot of the decisions that I made, that I learned from, like I quit my job in 2008. I was working at a railroad yard. I was working, at a railroad yard, and I was working in the office, and basically I quit my job. And then I quit my job, because I was having really hard time sleeping and stuff like that. And the thing is that basically when I quit my job, it was hard trying to find another job, because the market collapsed. A lot of people were unemployed. And then next thing you know, it was like a situation that became worse because a lot more people lost their job, a lot more people lost their house, a lot of people got evicted. People were living in abandoned houses, and the house was in foreclosure, or the apartment building was in foreclosure, and they were just living in it and not paying no rent because there was nobody to pay rent to, because the apartment owners were in foreclosure. It was just really, really kind of like really tripped out. But the thing is that in that course of time, this was like right before I got to work in Chicago public schools. And I was a CWA aide, and I was like basically helping out with kids with autism. I'll change their diapers and monitor them and stuff like that. This was before I got to be a computer teacher, be an IT coordinator for Chicago public schools, where I was basically monitoring the infrastructure of a school system that I worked at on the west side of Chicago. People that know me personally, they know all about that. What's going on, basically, uh, before all of that, that's why a lot of times you just don't give up. You just don't give up. Before I got to work for Chicago public school system as a computer teacher, which I had all kind of hats. I wore like 4 different hats, man. But the thing is that I was working as a cab driver. Now, my father is from Ghana. He came over here. He initially worked for airline company, and he was working at O'Hare Airport as basically someone that's like maintaining the planes. Like he was either like someone that was cleaning out the plane, whatever the hell he was doing, I really don't know. But he did that for like before I was born, right after I was born, and then he got tired of it, I guess. And then, well, my mother said he got fired, but then after that he just started driving a cab. And my father drove a cab for most of my life, and most of his life living in Chicago, in America, pretty much. He drove a cab. So I was like, well, let me try let me try driving a cab. So, man, I have my license and everything, and I literally I went to Schaumburg. I saw an ad on Craigslist for because I'm unemployed. I got an apartment. I'm trying to pay rent. Okay, that's the basically I got saw this ad for cab driver, because I was like, all right, well, I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I also didn't have a car. I crashed my Mustang on the expressway and didn't have no car. My mother gave me some money. She gave me like, I think she gave me like I want to say, I don't remember how much she actually gave me, but she gave me some money, and she was like, hey, you can either buy you another little hoopty or whatever. And I'm like, well, she gave me this money. All right, I'm gonna just kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm gonna drive a cab. This was way before Uber, obviously. This 2008. Okay, well before Uber. So I'm like, well, I'll just kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll drive a cab, and then I'll actually have a car too, because basically I found out that you pay like 400 and almost $500, let's just say, at the time, and you get a cab, and then you got to get trained for a day or two on how to be a cab driver and whatnot, and work for the company. So I rode along with this black guy that he was literally, man, he was doing it, man. He was living in Schaumburg. He was like, I got me a little cab, and it's pretty good here. And the women, he's talking about and this dude was broke, right? So all you guys talking about you need money and all this, I was broker than broke. I was in a cab with another guy that was he was already a seasoned cab driver, about 6 months. The man had, all kind of action going on. He was talking about, I still remember this like it was yesterday. He telling me what, pointers and stuff on how to drive and where to pick up people and what you got to do as far as the company, how it's run. So I did this for the first day, and then after that, they gave me a cab. I leased from this West African guy, ironically, and he had about four cabs. Poor guy, because the first cab he gave me was a van, and man, that dog. I'll just tell you like this, man. I did not pay attention to that oil. That damn motor froze up on that Ford van, man. The first week, I called him up. He like, man, what the hell, man? And then he gives me another car to drive. So first week I was pretty happy, man. I got me a little car, and I definitely, I'm born and raised in Chicago, so I know all about Schaumburg and that area and everything. So I'm driving around and making some money, picking some people up. Very weird, very weird, because it was like I was picking up women in hotels, and I knew they were prostitutes because let's just say I got inside information on that type of life. You can watch some of my videos, and I ain't gonna go into too much into that, but yeah, I know about the women working out of hotels. You know what I'm saying? But um basically, I basically was, picking up a lot of these, and it was white chicks, it was, black chicks, it was all kind of chicks, man. I would pick them up from the hotel and take them to other, drop off spots and stuff. A lot of that was who I was picking up, and then of course people, I was picking up at a lot of hotels, restaurants, and airports and whatnot. So I mean, I was doing that and making a little money, putting some money in my pocket. I had me a van, and I was hustling. And then here's another thing, to the point where this van, I was still doing IT work and stuff, right? So I had a friend of mine that we went half on a shipment for liquidation.com, and we got like a whole bunch of he had more money than I had. So I worked out a deal where I would use my van, and I drove my van all the way. This van that I had a taxi cab on. This is how much of a hustler I am. Okay. I drove it all the way to outside of Indianapolis to pick up this load for liquidation.com, a whole bunch of Logitech speakers, man. So part of the deal was I get half because I'm going to pick this load up. If we would have got the freight cost would have been like too tremendously much of a cost, like over $200. So I drove with this van to Indianapolis to pick up this load of speakers. It was about like four big old boxes, right? So I come back to my apartment. I was living in Calumet City, and I met up with my friend at the time. He was in IT. He had some ways about him, so I just kind of canceled the whole friendship. But we split it up. He wanted some of the best speakers. Obviously, you know, this nigga, man. I mean, I was like, all right, whatever, man. But I ended up still making a lot of money off of that because I was popping them boys off of eBay. I made a pretty good coin off of that. But yeah, man, I hustled that van, that taxi cab all the way to Indianapolis. And then, of course, I'm still driving the cab. But where the broke story comes in, that where I never forget, where it's just hilarious, is all right. So one night I was just driving on a Sunday. I'm new. I ain't never really drove a cab. A lot of times I used to remember my dad, he used to always be at home on Sunday. I'm like, Dad, why does Mark always he on Sunday? Well, let me tell you something. I learned the hard way about Sunday and driving a cab. Okay. Basically, before Uber, you had to be out there to get the money. I mean, yeah, even at the time, this 2008, I had basically a Motorola phone that I would get automated rides on this phone. So they still had some GPS technology even in 2008, where this GPS unit, basically you could get I would get my rides on this phone. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's just say Sunday evening, I came with the bright idea to start driving the cab. While most people are getting ready to go to work and just came back from church and everything, had a good meal, they ain't going nowhere, got a fat stomach and in the house. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just drive a cab, because you gotta pay at least. You gotta that $450, you gotta pay that every week. You know what I'm saying? And you to keep driving that cab, you gotta give that owner of the taxi cab, that $450 every week, kind of like a booth rent for a barber. So I'm trying to hustle some money. I'm trying to work every day so I can pay that 450, so I can save enough money so I can, pay to keep this car again, because I still need my car. I still need a job too. So anyway, I'm driving about 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and I started to notice, and then I'm also extremely broke. I'm poor as hell. Like, I got poor habits. Like, I'm ordering fast food and buying all kind of stuff with the little money I'm making, driving the cab, not having no money, don't have no concept whatsoever of no millionaire savings plan. This was before I even read probably Rich Dad Poor Dad, before Millionaire Next Door, any of that. I ain't had none of that understanding. So I'm just basically shooting off the hip financially. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't got no money hardly. Okay. So 9 o'clock goes by. It's not that many rides I'm noticing. I'm just sitting parked. You know what I'm saying? I'm just sitting. And 10 o'clock roll by. And then I'm just out here. I'm like, damn, where's everybody else? I'm not getting no ride. I'm getting like maybe one or two rides. So, and then if you're working in the suburbs, here's another thing. Like, people probably like, man, why don't you just, you dumb motherfucker, why don't you just go to Chicago? No, if you're a suburban cab driver, you can't go to Chicago and pick up anybody unless the company authorizes it. Basically, if you can get somebody to call your cab company, and you can go to Chicago and, yes, pick them up and then bring them back to the suburbs. You can't just go as a suburban cab driver, even though I had to do that a few times. You can't just go pick up people in the city with a suburban cab car. You get in trouble. You can get in trouble for that, and you could get your cab basically seized and all kind of other stuff, because that city of Chicago medallion, my father had one, and it's worth now about 400,000, $500,000. It might be a little bit less, but at the time, years ago, back in the 90s, it was like over $200,000 to have a medallion on a cab. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people are getting in a lot of debt because of the medallions. So you can't just be a suburban cab driver and just drive around the city. You got to spend a lot of money, a lot of bread, and you have to have the city medallion to pick up people in the city. You know what I'm saying? So I was just stuck out here in the Schaumburg area. 11 o'clock goes by, no rides, and I'm steady driving. I'm in this I'm trying to get some heat. I think it was a little bit, I think it was cold. It might have not been cold, but I'm just driving around, right? And I'm burning gas. That's another mistake I did. I was just driving around. I should have just, sat, even though I did sit for hours, because basically, long story short, I'm just sitting, no rides are coming in my phone, nothing is coming my way, nobody flagging my vehicle down to pick them up. Man, I was in a situation where I was running out of gas, I had no money, and I'm driving a cab. At the worst, I was thinking of calling my grandfather to come out and basically give me some money or whatever, because I'm like, and then I didn't do it. Long story short, I didn't do it because it would have been so embarrassing. Just think about it. You driving a cab, which is a cash register on wheels, and you don't have no gas and you're stranded. I mean, like, that would been so embarrassing. I mean, like, I just didn't do it. What I ended up doing was I had to go through the whole night, almost like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. People started getting up to work. I was a sitting duck for about 12 o'clock at night to about 4 or 5 in the morning. Then what saved me from this embarrassing situation of having to call somebody to literally come give me some money in a cab. Um, I got a call for people getting up to go to work Monday morning. Got one call. I think I even picked up one hooker at a hotel. Made another call that gave me enough money to get some gas to take my ass back home. And after that, I never drove on a Sunday night like that again. So I appreciate all of you guys, man. This is volume one, broke story. I hope somebody learned something from this. Y'all, see y'all later.